When you're first born, we're a blank slate, right? There's nothing there until we have an experience, and we try to avoid the pain. And so we come up with these global general beliefs about things that protect us. And so what I would say for this is that's why I think practices of mindfulness, they're so important. Because it brings us in the moment, know that our thoughts aren't who we are necessarily. You've heard me say this. When people come to me all the time at any event, I just gave a talk recently, and people say things like, Jim, I have a horrible memory, or I'm getting too old, or I'm not smart enough. And I always tell people, if you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. And you have to be careful and mindful of these thoughts, and that's why I think journaling is an important tool. Meditation is an important tool, because it sensitizes you to this inner talk, this critic, if you will. Which, incidentally, on a tangent, that inner talk is why we read so slow. Imagine if you could go online and pick up 30 books and read them in 30 or 60 days, what kind of advantage you would have. I don't play golf very well, so I don't play it very well. So it's this confidence loop in psychology where if I played golf better, I'd probably play it more and I get better at it. And same thing with any kind of skill. But things with, like, when it comes to reading, most people say they're not a really great reader. And it's not their fault, because you're not born with the ability to read. You were taught in school. But when's the last time you took a class called reading? How old were you last time you took, not a college lit class, but a class called reading? Most of us are still reading like we're 6 or 7 years old. And the difficulty and the demand has increased exponentially, but our skills haven't updated to that level. That growing gap creates that stress. You ever notice when you're reading something, you hear that inner voice inside your head reading along with you? The reason why it's an obstacle to your reading is because if you have to say the words inside your mind in order to understand them, then you can only read as fast as you could speak. That's why most people are slow readers, because they're saying the words, so their reading speed is limited to their talking speed, but not their thinking speed. That's why you can listen to a book on tape or a podcast at a higher speed, because you can understand that at that pace, but you can't speak at that pace.
Gotcha.
And here's the thing. When you're reading and you see all these words, 95% of those words are words you've seen many times, thousands of times, countless times. So you don't have to pronounce a word or a series of words like New York City in order to understand what New York City is. And the best readers, the trained readers, they mitigate and reduce that subvocalization, read by sight. And that's a huge advantage, but we weren't taught that. That voice also is that critic or that doubter, the one that's a squelcher, that we don't want to make mistakes.
There are these 4 primary brainwave states. Beta is what you and I are in right now, we're awake. Delta is when you're fast asleep. In between those 2 states, theta and alpha, are extremely important brainwave states for learning. So theta is the state right in and out of sleep. Theta is the state that we call creativity. When you are your most creative, usually it's coming because you're in this theta state. And you know this, when you're in and out of sleep, or you're close to, like, you're so deep, your mind goes and you come up with ideas. You know what puts you in a theta state? Showers. You ever notice, like, when you're in the shower, you come up with some of your best ideas? Above theta, though, is the state called alpha, right below beta, where you're most aware and awake. Alpha is a state of learning, accelerated learning. It's a state of relaxed awareness. This is a state we go into when we meditate, because your critical mind is set aside and you just absorb information unconsciously. You know what puts you into an alpha state? Television. You ever notice that if somebody's watching the game or somebody's watching their favorite TV show and you're trying to have a conversation with them and they literally are in trance, they don't hear you because of the television programming? But that's the alpha state. That's where information is just going inside your mind. So we train people how to learn languages faster, learn facts better by putting them into an alpha state, a relaxed state of awareness. And we can do that by design.
And we know, in terms of accelerated learning, the fastest learners are children. How fast can a child learn a musical instrument? How fast can they learn another language? They have this sense of wonder, and part of it is their neuroplasticity, but science is showing even now that no matter what your age, that you could grow older, but you could create new brain cells to the day you die. You could create new connections using the power of novelty and nutrition, and it's very amazing. But I think also children, they play. They're very playful. They're not afraid of making mistakes. Right? A child learning how to walk could fall 4, 5, 6 times or 4, 5, 600 times, but they never after 12 times say, okay, this is not, I'm quitting. I'm not gonna do this because I don't wanna look bad. But adults, we do that. If we're honest, most adults, they'll try something once or twice and then they have that fear of looking bad. And I feel like that's what keeps us from living the person we're supposed to be.
It's like so many people, they wake up and say, oh, I hope I have energy today, or I have motivation today, things that they have, right? I have creativity so I can write today or make videos, or I have memory, or I have focus or concentration. Those aren't things you have, those are things you do. And so you don't have love, you do loving things. You don't have energy, you do things that give you energy. Just like that applies, same thing with learning. You don't have focus, there's a process for doing focus. You don't have a memory, there's steps to improve your memory or to remember things better. Creativity is not something you have, there's actually a process for creativity. You know, I think if somebody wants to improve their esteem, their self-esteem overnight, just study your brain. Like you'll get a boost of confidence and pride like instantly, because it is the most incredible, I don't even know what to call it, a device, a supercomputer, what, in the whole universe. You know, it's not just about going out to Mars and all these other places. I want to go in here because this controls what? Everything. Our careers, our income, our health, our relationships. You know, whether or not you get, complete, it only becomes power when we use it, when we apply it.